You're listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense with your host, Doug Thorpe. Here's Doug.
Well, hello again, everyone. This is Leadership Powered by Common Sense. I'm your host, Doug Thorpe, and today we're going to take honestly, a bit of a departure from what you might be used to hearing us talk about. I'm going to, let me just introduce my guest. Her name is Miranda Mitchell. She's with us from the great state of Florida. Miranda, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
I don't want to be mysterious about what I said in that lead-in. That sounded kind of ominous maybe, but the reason I say there's a difference is today Miranda and I are going to talk a little bit about what many of you who are regular listeners might consider a little bit of an alternate way to think about things. And I think it's healthy from a leadership development standpoint and your ability to grow as a leader in your work, to occasionally explore or consider some different ideas, things that might be different from the way you were brought up, shaped, or molded in your nurturing years. So Miranda, tell us a little bit about your journey and your story of how you got to where you are right now.
Oh, well, there was a long story where I got to where I am right now. And it goes to actually the journey and purpose, like we mentioned in life. There's a lot of different times in my life that I was definitely out of alignment, because I will be talking about energy of who we are, the energy that we put out into the world, the energy that we receive from other people, and the elements. So there was a lot of misalignment throughout my life. So a lot of my life, there was very traumatic. A lot of my life, I moved out at 14. I lived from house to house. I didn't graduate high school. I was in abusive relationships. I actually was drinking a lot. There was so much that was out of alignment, and I was so lost. Then when I had my son gave me a purpose. He kind of grounded me into bettering myself. And since then, it's been a consistent journey. So first, I was a personal trainer for over 20 years because I wanted to take care of my kids. I wanted to be there. Then from there, I went into yoga, because yoga kind of slowed me down and made me realize that I was living in momentum of life, and I wasn't aware of slowing down and the things that really mattered, which changed a lot in my life at that time. And then I went into coaching, teaching yoga, then coaching. And then I found human design. And that's where I kind of landed, because human design really gave me the tangible tool to see that everything in my life that I had experienced was in fact for a reason. And it was all there that I could see. So I was able to accept, forgive, let go, all of the experiences that happened, and then boldly kind of step into what I'm truly here to do.
You mentioned the sense of purpose, that having your son kind of gave you that grounding and a new definition of your own purpose. What you alluded to before we got online here, Miranda and I were catching up and sharing a few notes and things, and we got to talking about that sense of coming into alignment and identity with your own personal sense of purpose. I do a lot of that work with my clients when we do engage, and whether it's executive coaching or small business coaching, it's important for a leader to understand their own sense of purpose. Otherwise, you're just sort of going through the motions or, executing busy work. And you may wake up one day and realize there's got to be more to this story. Why am I here, and what am I living? And there's a favorite phrase I quote often. It's allegedly from Mark Twain. He said, there's two important days in a man's life: the day you were born and the day you find out why. So talk to us a little bit more, Miranda, about that sense of purpose.
Yeah, well, when it was with my son, it was grounding me into working towards something. Before then, I had no drive to work towards something. Now, after many, many years releasing traumas and going into the work, I realized that, and through the lens of human design, really, purpose is not about what we do in life. It's really about who we be while we do it. Like, who is the energy? What is the energy that we're here to be? What is the energy that we're here to put out into the world so that we can step into our purpose? So an example for me, there's in our chart, there's the sun gate, and the sun gate is really here, the energy that you're supposed to be here to be. So I have the gate 48, which is in the lowest expression, inadequacy, which is something I struggled my entire life with, inadequacy. So I always try to better myself. In the highest expression, it's wisdom. So through my journey of inadequacies and my studies, I have become wise. And that is what I'm here to be. That is what I'm here to respond to talk about. So it is through all of my experiences and all my traumas and all those things that I did that were not healthy for me, for the most part, is really for me here to share with other people. That's my purpose. My purpose is to help and support and love other people so that they can realize who they are authentically and be that purpose, rather than always reaching for what to do next.
Yeah. I like that. And I happen to agree with you. You know, talking about identifying your sense of purpose, it's not just about what you're going to go do, but I like the way you put it. You know, it's really who you are going to be in this world, and the ultimate contribution that may represent. And I thinking a little bit about what you were saying, I think most people who are successful in the business world have developed an ability to leverage the experience they come through, good or bad. You know, if they started a business and it failed, you'll hear them later talk about what they learned from that experience and how they developed and how they realized maybe it was a shortcoming in their own ability to make decisions or lead people or deal with the market or whatever. So they're using that experience to kind of guide and build that wisdom that they might need to create a better success now. Let's talk a little bit about you've mentioned this idea of human design. So go ahead and define that for us. What does that represent in the work you do?
Okay, well, I'm sure everybody has heard about the personality tests that people have taken, right? So it can be categorized as that, but I feel like it's much more, and I can explain why. It takes in the use of traditional wisdom, like the Hindu chakras, the tree of life, astrology, the Chinese I Ching. So it's multicultural, multi-age, right? And quantum mechanics. And then a body graph is actually printed out from your birth date, birth time, and birthplace. And that is because that is where these planets were, which all have an archetype of what that energy means. So within this chart, it shows you at the time of your birth what energy you have consistently, meaning like what lessons you're here to learn, what is your energy here to be, what keeps you grounded, what is some of your spiritual struggles that you're going to have. So it shows you that. It shows you where you receive energy from the environment. So any place in the chart that is white, it means it's open. That means we receive that energy from other people and the environment that we're in. And then any place that is colored in, whether it be tan, yellow, red, or black, that is where we have consistent energy. So at the time of our birth, we have that imprint. Now, what happens throughout life is we become conditioned, either by our family, friends, where we live, society as a whole, our school, everything, right? So we become conditioned. Now that you can revert back to where you started, you can see where you've become conditioned, and release that so that you can actually be the energy that you were here to be. You can choose to stay conditioned in some areas or be aware, right? But you don't have to be stuck in that pattern anymore because you're aware that this is conditioning. Whereas other personality tests, I feel, is more where you're at now. So it just takes in the conditioning that you already have. It doesn't have the awareness of where you were before you were conditioned.
Yeah. A lot of the personality testing models, and I use them in my coaching business because, let's face it, the modern business world has embraced a number of them. And I won't name names right now, but and what I'm getting ready to say is not a knock on any of them either. But you're right. They generally all lean toward creating a definition of some kind of profile. Most of them argue that that profile, while it might be a culmination of a lot of the nurturing and development you've gone through and experience you've had, most of them argue there's still a core personality that exists, and it kind of doesn't matter what experiences you had, you're still going to sort of show up in the moment one way or another. And many of those are rooted in the Carl Jungian psychology, the four color kind of definition. And I know they get into the variations, and you get up to like 16 or 32 variations of all that to help understand it. But I think it is interesting that, as I'm understanding what you described, that there's a baseline there regardless. And whether we move away from or back to that baseline, the closer we can align with that, the better off we're going to be, is what I'm hearing. Is that?
Yeah. And it's so powerful too, because you can, when you see the chart and maybe you start studying it, you can see where there's been conditioning. Let's say I know we haven't gone over what it is, but if you have an open area, open space, you receive other energies. So I have an open G center, which is love, direction, identity. Okay. So that means, remember what I said in the beginning, I was in trauma. I was going from one place to another. I didn't know who I was. I was doing all these things. So the open G, what was happening is every person that I was around, I was morphing myself and changing myself into those people to try to fit in, to find love, direction, and identity. And then I always judged myself. I remember saying, who am I anyway? I don't matter. I don't even know who I am, And it was because of that I started that process of diving deep, getting all the certifications, going to college, getting all the things because I wanted to prove who I was. And then when I saw my chart, it all made sense. I was able to let that go. Like, I don't need to prove anymore. The reason that occurred was because of this. So it gave me that acceptance to let it go. And then it gave me the opportunity to say, okay, and now what? Like, now that I know this, how am I going to be more bold? How am I going to help people with this?
Yeah. Well, what I'm thinking about that is I am sort of fast forwarding to the the business world, and I'm thinking about people that either they've created a company and they've grown it up to a certain level of success, or they've climbed the corporate ladder and they've gotten to some level of success. And they're starting to sense that question of, so what? So I've worked hard, I've done all this, so what? How would you apply some of that human design thinking to helping somebody resolve that kind of question?
Yeah. And, sometimes working up that ladder of success, you feel like at the end of that ladder, you're going to just feel this amazing thing. And then what happens is you still feel the same, like it's still something missing. So with human design, actually, you really kind of get to tune into what fulfills you by the energies in your chart. So for me, what fulfills me and what I actually thrive in is working in collaboration. I love working with people. I love responding to people. I love being of service. So within your chart, you actually see the leadership roles or the leadership gates that show up. Some are through the voice. Some, like number 7, which is collaboration, is a leader, but is behind the scenes, that's what I'm in. So it's not like I don't want to be up in front and center. but some others do, and they have that gate activation. So by knowing that, you can kind of accept it and be like, oh, you know what? That is interesting. I am wanting to be a leader, but I don't need to be up front and center. So how am I going to do this? So it gives you that awareness first, that acceptance, and it's almost like a switch, like you just know it when you see it. So then you can really step into that role of who you're really here to be and lead in the way that you're here to lead. That feels good, that you're not burning out your energy and you're not constantly on that hamster wheel.
Yeah. So separating the corporate environment from the small business environment, or the independent business environment, I'll call it. I want to focus a minute on the corporate side because that is where I do a good bit of work. And what I inevitably run into is somebody is given some early opportunities for promotion and advancement. They're made supervisor, manager, director, on and on. And so they are working up. And depending on the company, most everyone has a kind of culture and kind of a standard for how they want managers to operate and how they want their executives to show up. So people start trying to force themselves. It's often the classic square peg in a round hole kind of alignment. And that obviously ultimately applies, it creates a whole lot of friction and a whole lot of dissatisfaction on the person that's trying to fit in that hole. So having this awareness of that sense of purpose and belonging and understanding how you might better fit is so very important, I think, for that ultimate success.
Yeah. And there's, when you look at the different design types, so there's 5 energy types really, and each energy type has a different way of being as far as energetically. So let's say you're in corporate, right? And you have a team meeting and you run their types and you see, okay, you have 3 manifesting generators, 1 projector, 1 reflector, and 1 manifestor, let's just say, okay? So each energy type has a different way of being. Manifesting generators, when they are inspired and love and are loving what they're doing, they will work. They'll work forever because they love to work. That's what they're here to do, is work. Yeah. Now, if you're a projector, projectors aren't made to work a lot. So they may get down on themselves. They're basically the managerial, they oversee, but they're not really here to work 8 hours a day. They actually need more rest. So when you're able to see that, you can then put them in the position that they'll most thrive in, rather than putting them in the position where the manifesting generator is, where they can work, right? So you can kind of set everyone up to really thrive. The manifestors like all about initiation, getting all the ideas, starting the things, but then they need the support underneath them, because I say they're kind of like a sprinter. They get that initiation and then they need to rest and recover and get that creative flow again. And then the reflector is basically a mirror of the environment, because they're very open. So that means they have a lot of white areas. They're receiving a lot of energy. So if the reflector is not happy, thriving, then the environment itself is not. So if you take it in by just the energy types, you can see how we're actually here to support one another. We're not all here to do everything. It's really about setting everyone up in the best place that suits their energy so that they can thrive. They feel seen, they feel heard, they feel accepted, and they're being successful and not burning themselves out.
What you've just described is kind of the ultimate talent that a leader could have, is to make an assessment of the team they've got and work hard to properly align people for optimum success. And, what I'm going to say is, regardless of the method or tool you figure that out, if you're a leader and you have that responsibility, the better you can do at making those alignments. Some people have said, there's writing, Jim Collins said, to be a successful company, you got to get the right people on the bus. And then I think it was Gino Wickman that came along and said, yeah, but you got to have them in the right seat on the bus. And you look at talent alignment and energy alignment, or ultimately personality type alignment. And it really is an important aspect of being an effective leader. So, you know what, Miranda, with that, I'm looking at the clock. It's time to take a short commercial break here, and we're going to do that. But then we're going to be right back as quick as we can. Hang with us, everybody.
Business is all about solving complex problems as fast as you can create them. Become the best problem solver by leading others to greatness too. And the first step is going to DougThorpe.com. Doug Thorpe is known globally for coaching entrepreneurs and business leaders, improving their performance and the work output of everyone surrounding them. You can find health, wealth, and happiness by learning to lead others to health, wealth, and happiness. Go to DougThorpe.com now and order Doug's books or hire him to coach your managers. That's DougThorpe.com.
All right, everyone, we're back, and today I'm visiting with Miranda Mitchell. We are talking about quite frankly, I'm going to be just really blunt and transparent. We're talking about a different way of looking at things that Miranda has to share with us. Maybe many of you have heard about or read about, but you consider it out on the edge somewhere. And frankly, I'm going to go on record. I like that. I like considering opportunities that might be out on the edge. And I say that because I think as a leader, it is important to periodically drop all your internal understanding and biases about different things and open up a new book, open up a new piece of material, study something that just might be a new insight to your situation and the challenge that you're facing today. And that's what I certainly hope this show can do for you, is give you some ideas about those alternative things. And I love the discussion we had in the first half, and I want to pick that back up. So Miranda, we were talking when we took the break about managers being able to properly align people based on whatever sort of, I think in your words, if I can say it properly, kind of the energy profile they've got and what they might bring based on who they are and how they were created. What else comes from the better understanding of this human design idea?
Well, really, I feel we all want to really truly know who we are and understand who we are, right? And if we're not happy or fulfilled, then something's out of alignment. So what human design really does is it gives you the opportunity to go in, look at the energies, look at some of the things, like contemplate on them. Does this feel right to me? Are there instances in my life that I felt like I was inadequate? Was this a huge theme in my life? So it really gives each person the opportunity to understand themselves, to know themselves, to question. And I love that you said, like, bring them other perspectives, because again, I agree, like leadership is about opening to things that your beliefs are kind of like, I don't know about that, right? But you can still hear it. Even if it doesn't resonate right now, that's okay. What if in 3 years it comes up again and you're like, oh, you know what? That actually makes sense now. So it's about, and I love too that some people may not resonate with it, because I feel like anytime that you touch on that, then you're making change, right? So it being a different perspective. So I love that. But when a person really knows who they are, say in the environment, in a professional environment, and then you have them in the working space that they're going to thrive, you kind of play around and experiment with that. Then they also get to fully be who they are. It's not only their professional life will change, but their entire life, their family life, their perspective on who they are. And then from there, it's like, again, like, what is it now? Now, what can I do? And there's this new sense of belief and new sense of self, because you understand yourself now, because you've taken the time to release things, to look within. And then if you have a whole team that has done that inner work and they know who they are, they're not going to be competing. They're not going to be putting each other, like trying to scratch their way to the top. They're actually going to be supporting one another so that you all get to the top. That's what it's about. It's not about like me. It's about me, so we can be thriving and be successful and happy and fulfilled.
It's interesting you say that. One thing that comes to mind when I think about that, back to the classic corporate personality inventories that are done, the red, yellow, blue, green kind of models. Every time I've seen that implemented in a company, the goal is allegedly to enlighten everybody, let everybody do their own assessment. And then I've seen companies that will go so far as to give you cute little stickers, they're red, yellow, blue, and green. So you put it on your cubicle, or you put it on your door, or you put it on your computer. And the learning that's supposed to be happening is that when somebody walks in, they kind of trigger and go, oh, you're a blue, so I'm supposed to try to reach out and connect with you this way because you're blue and I'm red, or you're green and I'm yellow. And they're supposed to have that kind of understanding of one another to improve the collaboration, improve the energy. But you know what happens most of the time? Sadly, it's just the opposite. The red, yellow, blue, green becomes another kind of label, and somebody goes, oh, I can't talk to you, you're green. And that's missing the boat. That's missing the message altogether. And so if you can't hear that in what the line I'm going down here, I struggle when a client company jumps up and tells me that they're big on this one or that one, this tool or that tool and all that. And I always want to go, how's that working out for you?
Yeah. And, it's because really, have these people, do they even know who they truly are? Or are they choosing the red, blue, green based on who they think they are, or who they should be, who they want to be?
Well, they're answering questions inside the tool that ultimately scores out and gives them that definition or declaration of who they are. But you're right. How are you really answering the questions? And all of the assessment tool people will tell you they've got ways of cross-checking and validating that whether somebody's trying to fool the system or give conflicting data and all of that. So I don't know. I've never gotten into it that deeply from a statistical standpoint. But my point is, back to what we were saying about leaders, try to really learn your people and understand personalities, skills, preferences, opportunities. Having an approach or a method or a visibility like you're describing could add to that opportunity to really understand that and do a better job of aligning all the resources on the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the company itself thrives.
Right. If everybody had a chance to really align with the opportunities that are better fits for their purpose, right?
Right.
So, yeah. I like that. The other side of this, as you were speaking a moment ago, I thought about a situation a number of years ago. I had a client. He had been a world traveler in his business, large global brand. He had worked there, 30 years, and we were doing an executive coaching session. And I had this really what I thought was a slick little diagram. I was trying to explain to him a certain principle of something he might want to consider. And after I made my little 5-minute presentation on how this worked and what it was about, he sat back and he looked at me and he grinned and he said, "That's a very Western way of looking at the world." And I went, "Okay, elaborate." And his point was, and he was American by birth, and his point was that for the 10 or 15 years he had spent over in the Far East, he learned about the cultures and learned about some of the ways and the teachings and the spirituality that they experienced and how that influenced the way they attacked their business life. And so his point was, what I thought was an incredibly slick model was just a very biased Western way of looking at the world. And that if I were to compare that to some Eastern teachings, I would find that it didn't work at all.
Right. And that goes back to the opening to different perspectives.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So I've always been cautious to, talk to my clients and learn a whole lot more about their background and their views of things and how they're, where they are really grounded in their thinking about the person they are, the leader they want to be, and so forth. And, obviously the list is long of factors that contribute to that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm dying to shift the gears here just a minute, and I want to maybe ask on a more personal level, not you personally, but I mean just away from business a minute, thinking about what you described in some of the core elements and your energy centers and all of that sort of thing. How does that impact our individual ability to find a life partner, make a good choice for the person we want to be with?
That's very interesting because it brings in electromagnetics there.
Okay.
Within the chart, sometimes you'll see a whole line and sometimes you'll see a half line, which is called a hanging gate. So anywhere that there's a hanging gate, the opposite is attracted. So a lot of people, there's two instances I would love to share with this. A lot of people say, why do I always have the same relationship with different people? And the reason that is because they're attracted to that opposite hanging gate that connects some of the energy centers. So it's a different person, but it's the same energy. Another instance in this is very interesting as far as our conditioning. I'm sure you've heard sons marry their mothers or their daughters marry the fathers, right? But really what that is the sons are attracted to the energy that was there while they were growing up. So when they find someone that is kind of like their mom, they feel home, they feel safe, they know me, they love me, they trust me. So in that, as far as relationships, it can be a beautiful thing, and it can also be a thing that is a repeated pattern over and over. So by being aware of this, you actually can realize, oh, I'm only attracted to this type of person because of these hanging gates. Do I truly love them? And you're aware. It all starts with awareness, right? And then the same with the energy gates of your family. Do I only feel safe in this space because their energy is what I'm used to? It's what I've grown up in. It feels like home. So it goes into the electromagnetics of these different gate activations.
That's interesting. Yeah. I'm going down memory lane thinking of a whole lot of situations of friends and even a few of my own relations along the way, thinking about how what might have felt comfortable just really wasn't a good relationship. Mm-hmm. And I think of a few that would even say they were finally aligned with someone that was radically different from anything they ever expected. That little mental type you might think you have, all of a sudden somebody shows up that is just nothing, none of that, but there is still an attraction, and you make the commitment and find out that it's the best choice you ever made. And it was a wonderful, match and a very successful relationship.
And another way to look at it too, with those hanging gates, when you have two that match, it's usually attraction, right? So that's what attracts you to them. That's attached, like attraction there. But then after that honeymoon phase wears out, it's like those are the areas that actually you kind of like, okay, that annoys me now, But it's because you guys each have half a gate that's butting heads. So if you know that, like with my husband, I just say, we agree to disagree. You're not going to make me listen to you about this. I don't agree, and I'm not going to either. So it has really helped our relationship be who we are, being authentic in who we are, and being able to voice how we truly feel and not be afraid of hurting feelings or any of that, because we understand where we're coming from in that way.
Yeah, I like that. And that is so important to find those things and find those areas and those levels of understanding so that you can work through it. And my wife and I tell people that we've never had a fight, and we haven't.
That's amazing.
Have we had challenges and have we had things that have been difficult? Yes. But have we really had a fight, kind of the slam the door and walk out the room, kind of thing? No, we never have. We adopted a little mechanism that, as it's turned out, we've never really had to use much, but we agreed early on in our relationship that on the off chance one of us got heated, we would apply an alter ego definition. And her name is Susan, and our alter egos are Chuck and Linda. And if we get to a little bit of a friction point, all she has to do is say Chuck, or I'll say Linda, and then it's over.
Oh, I love that. It's easy too.
And it gets everything centered, and we go back. But we haven't even used that in a long time. But we know it's there, and we laugh about it now. But in the early years, while we were figuring stuff out, we probably did it 3 or 4 times, but not a lot. But it was a little trick that worked really well. It totally diffused every situation. So
yeah. Well, because there was no defending yourself or anything like that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't one of those things. That's where I've seen so many relationships get into trouble. It's that it's that kind of finger pointing and projection that escalates things so poorly. And if you can eliminate that aspect of it and get back to, here's what I'm thinking, here's what I need, I want to be clear and help you understand, then the other person has to receive that and say, okay, I want to receive it, I want to understand. And I may not, like you said about your husband, you may never agree with it, but you are hearing it.
Exactly. And he knows that I'm not going to try to talk him out of his beliefs or his, it's about who we are authentically, not having to defend ourselves for what we believe or how we feel. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think we're coming up on time here, Miranda. This has been great. Is there a website or link or something people can get to if they want to reach out to you?
Yeah, you can go to Miranda-Mitchell.com. And if there's any interest just to see your chart, I do offer a free chart. You can just enter in your birthday, birth time, birthplace, and I run your chart and send it your way just so you can see what it looks like, where there's white areas, where there's colored areas, like the definition and the open. So if there's any interest.
Well, we'll put that in the show notes here. And I want to thank you for being on the show. I hope everyone, hung around for the good stuff. And I think it was a great opportunity to really understand yet again a really other view of questions you might have that haven't been resolved yet. That's the real bottom line for me is, if you're out there in your role or in your position in life right now and having some struggles trying to figure things out, the old way that's been pounded into you may not be the right answer. You might need to look for some alternative ways to explain and understand what you're up against and what you need to be doing. So ideas like this human design, I think, are very helpful. And professionals like Miranda can help you look through it and work through it and come to that understanding. So please do consider reaching out like that. Again, Miranda, thank you.
I want to say thank you for bringing me on and having the open perspective. I truly, truly appreciate it.
You're very welcome, and it's been an honor. And I do want to add at this point, if you're listening to us via your favorite audio channel, we do have this episode over on the YouTube channel by the same name, Leadership Powered by Common Sense. You can watch the show and see the dialogue that we've had and the exercises we've talked about. So again, I think this wraps it up, and thanks everyone for listening. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Everybody take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense, hosted by Doug Thorpe. If you would like to know more about the coaching and advisory services he provides, visit dougthorpe.com.